Hello and welcome to Unacademy IAS English, a one-stop destination for the English medium civil services aspirants. A very good morning and welcome to the daily Hindu news analysis. So let's begin today's discussion by first looking at the topics that we are going to discuss. From the Delhi edition of the Hindu, I have chosen 7 articles for a detailed analysis. We have 3 important articles relevant for both prelims and mains, and 4 small articles that could be important for the prelims exam. So let's cover all these topics comprehensively so that you don't have to go back and read the newspaper again. If you guys are benefiting from this initiative, do press the like button to express your support. Do let us know what you think of our initiatives in the comments, and without fail, subscribe to our channel. And before we start, there are a couple of important announcements. Last week, we launched this initiative called SIP, Success in Prelims. Under this initiative, every week we are providing you with 30 MCQs to practice for the prelims exam. These questions are based on the current affairs of the week, and this test is absolutely free of cost and it is exclusively available on the Unacademy platform. The link for the test is provided in the video description, and you can also download the Unacademy app and you will be able to find the test in the planner section. And also please note, starting from today, we will be launching a new weekly initiative. Mukesh sir will be taking up places that are in news. If you have seen prelims question papers over the last few years, a number of map-based questions are being asked. Places and locations that are in news are picked up for a map-based question. So to help improve your map reading skills, Mukesh sir will be periodically conducting places in news, and today you can watch the session at 8 p.m. on our YouTube channel. So do ensure you follow these initiatives regularly. Now let's get started with the analysis of the Hindu newspaper by looking at this editorial from page number 6. This article is related to Mission Mausam that was recently approved by the Union Cabinet. If you remember, just the other day, we spoke about Mission Mausam under the prelims section. We just understood what the mission is about. So today we have a detailed editorial that explains the significance of the mission and how it could benefit India. So let's carry out a detailed analysis of this important topic. The Modi government has taken a major step in the field of weather forecasting and early warning services. This initiative, Mission Mausam, will be implemented by the Ministry of Earth Sciences as the nodal ministry. Because the Ministry of Earth Sciences is primarily responsible for atmospheric studies, to study meteorological weather-based phenomena, and to provide early warning and forecasting services. There are several institutions that function under the Ministry of Earth Sciences, such as IMD, India Meteorological Department, which is the nodal early warning agency for heat waves, cold waves, and even heavy rainfall, for providing monsoon prediction and as well as for predicting cyclones. And you also have the Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology, the IITM, and the National Center for Medium Range Weather Forecasting. These 3 important scientific institutions, which function under Ministry of Earth Sciences, will be implementing this program. The Government of India is allocating 2,000 crore rupees over the next 2 years to improve the coverage of the sensors and the radars, which play a critical role in tracking weather-based phenomena. Now, this is all the more important in today's world because due to global warming, we are witnessing more and more extreme weather events. We are witnessing erratic weather patterns. We are coming across heat waves, deadly cold wave conditions. We are also looking at cloud bursts, extreme rainfall that cause floods, and even droughts on the other extreme. More intense cyclones, more frequent cyclones. They all lead to secondary disasters like landslides as well. So as we face more extreme weather events, as their frequency and intensity goes up, it is all the more important to improve our early warning and forecasting services. So with regard to disaster management, improved early warning and forecasting will be very critical, which can help save lives and it can help mitigate the impact of a disaster. And also don't forget, atmospheric studies, weather forecasting services serve a big economic purpose as well. These alerts and the data and the information which is shared by these institutions is absolutely critical for agriculture, for fisheries and several other economic sectors including industrial sectors. Farming entirely depends on such forecasts. For example, the long-term forecast given for monsoon for the entire season, the localized customized forecast given for specific regions. They play a crucial role in helping farmers to determine the right sowing season. It plays a big role in fisheries and several industries as well, thus playing a critical role in the economy. So, to provide these accurate, timely forecasts and alerts, you need a wide network of radars and sensors and other scientific instruments to be deployed around the country, along with your satellites in orbit. So that would be the focus of Mission Mausam. Mission Mausam will utilize the special allocation which has been provided up to 2,000 crores and it will be invested in enhancing the coverage of these essential instruments to track temperature, wind speed, atmospheric humidity and pressure at various elevations. And this data will be critical when we crunch the data using supercomputers, using the weather forecasting models. So let's understand the relevance of this mission and how it could benefit India. The Modi government deserves the credit for launching this mission, and under the mission, the cabinet has informed the public that the focus will be on establishing more weather radars, particularly Doppler radars, which can help track rain-bearing clouds, which can help in tracking the cumulonimbus clouds. Around 15 wind profilers and 15 radio sondes will also be installed around the country, along with stepping up the satellite infrastructure through ISRO, which is critical for tracking key weather-based indicators, be it tracking the wind speed or atmospheric pressure or the humidity level or the temperature. The data based on these indicators is very crucial to provide these forecasts and early warnings. Institutions like IMD, they not only provide country-wide forecasts, but they provide for localized, customized forecasts as well. So both over time and space, institutions like IMD provide for long-term forecasts and very customized, localized forecasts as well. So the success of such a model will heavily dependent on the data which is being collected, how these essential indicators are being tracked, and what weather forecasting model is being used, and what is the supercomputing capabilities available with these institutions to crunch the intensive data to bring out as accurate forecasts as possible. Because every now and then there has been criticism against Ministry of Earth Sciences and IMD and such institutions with regard to certain disasters that have occurred. For example, IMD has been struggling to provide forecasts for cloud bursts, because cloud burst is a very localized phenomena compared to extreme rainfall, which is much easier to predict, and we also have a color coded system through which alerts are given out by IMD that helps in evacuating people even in case of a flash flood. But cloud bursts are more hard to predict as it is very localized, and you need localized instruments from Doppler radars to wind profilers to be set up in the nooks and corners of the country. So that is why this mission will be critical. It will help scale up the weather forecasting infrastructure in the country. Now the editorial says that if this was the only purpose of the mission, then it would have appeared to be very similar to the National Monsoon Mission that was launched by the then UPA government in 2012. The National Monsoon Mission also had a similar objective. It gave a dedicated allocation of funds to Ministry of Earth Sciences and IMD to step up the weather forecasting infrastructure with primary focus on improving the supercomputing capabilities. So today IMD has been able to procure some of the latest and fastest supercomputers to crunch the weather data and to come out with an umbrella forecasting model. The advantage of having an umbrella weather model is that you can customize this to provide predictions for various hazards and various events. We can not only provide long-term forecasts for monsoon, but even look at heat waves, cold waves, and local customized forecasts for cloudbursts. So this versatile forecasting system has already been set up under National Monsoon Mission. So if Mission Mausam that has been launched by the Modi government, if it had same objectives of just improving the infrastructure, then it wouldn't have been very different from National Monsoon Mission. But however, Mission Mausam goes beyond this. This is where the editorial appreciates the government. Mission Mausam is looking to open up some new domains in the weather forecasting sector. Since we are dealing with the consequences of climate change and more extreme weather events and erratic weather patterns, it is important to focus on various weather phenomena and meteorological phenomena to develop better scientific understanding so that we better understand the hazards and thus we can take timely measures, mitigative measures to prevent some disasters or reduce the impact of some disasters. And also it might be possible to intervene in the meteorological processes and maybe some disasters can be minimized. For example, under Mission Mausam, there is a priority being given by IITM, the Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology, to set up a cloud simulation chamber so that rain-bearing model clouds can be simulated to better improve our understanding of cloud formation and precipitation. So such a simulated model will be set up at IITM to understand the processes involved in the formation of rain-bearing clouds and how do they precipitate. And the mission will also focus on active weather intervention, carrying out a direct intervention in the weather to prevent or mitigate certain disasters. For example, cloud seeding. By better understanding cloud formation and precipitation, we can improve cloud seeding and tweak the clouds to improve rainfall, especially in arid, semi-arid regions, which are usually drought-prone. So in such drought-prone areas, we can actively carry out interventions with better understanding of cloud formation and conduct cloud seeding. In cloud seeding, aerosols are sprayed into the upper atmosphere, right? Aerosols like silver iodide essentially to act as a catalyst to instigate the process of precipitation. So such active weather interventions are being considered. And more importantly, Mission Mausam is paying attention to lightning incidents. I don't know if you know this. Lightning is one of the leading killers in our country. Hundreds of people in India, especially in states like Odisha, hundreds of people are killed every year because of lightning strikes. So dealing with this hazard is a priority for the center and the state governments. In fact, at the state level, it has been declared as a disaster in certain states. So now the center is also paying greater attention given the significant mortality rate associated with lightning strikes. So Mission Mausam will give special attention to understand the process of lightning and see whether we can intervene in this process. Is it possible to tweak the electrical characteristics of a cloud to reduce or maybe divert the direction of a lightning strike, to take it away from human habitations and thus protect lives? See, around the world, many such experiments have been conducted. And you should also note that the feasibility of such intervention is also questionable. There are questions, criticisms as well, whether such an intervention is possible, whether it's possible for us to carry out such a degree of intervention to alter the electrical properties of a cloud, to change the lightning conditions. But still, it will help in advancing our understanding of meteorological phenomena and weather-based phenomena. So that is where I think one should appreciate the design and the intention of Mission Mausam. It could go a long way in improving our weather forecasting services, and it will serve not just an economic purpose but could help in preventing and mitigating disasters. So that is why the article is very important. Now take up a practice question based on this. Examine the focus areas of Mission Mausam and the benefits it can bring. Very straightforward question. So in the introduction, you can start out by explaining what is Mission Mausam. You can define the key features of the mission, or an alternate introduction would be you can introduce the importance of weather forecasting and early warning. You can approach this conceptually and explain why weather forecasting services, early warning services are critical, why it has to be accurate and timely to ensure that we get the maximum benefits. So that can be a good introduction as well. So once you start out your answer, then in the body, discuss the priorities of Mission Mausam. What initiatives are being planned, which institutions are involved. So mention all of them point by point, and maybe you can draw a comparison with the National Monsoon Mission and how Mission Mausam is a wider initiative, a more broader strategic initiative to improve weather forecasting and early warning services. So once you provide this explanation, suggest a way forward, bring a conclusion, ensure that you remain consistent throughout the answer. You can say that weather forecasting and early warning can save lives, can improve agriculture, can improve economic productivity. So again, you're talking about the benefits of investing in weather sciences and atmospheric sciences. So you need to justify the mission, back up the rationale behind the launch of the mission, and provide sufficient arguments to show how it can benefit India. So that will complete your answer. Now let's look at the next article. We have a column on page number 6 related to India's ambitious infrastructure projects. India's ongoing infrastructure projects are the primary focus of this article. Now let me tell you the context of this article, why this article has been brought up by the Hindu. Recently you might have heard that many under construction projects, they collapsed and failed, especially in the state of Bihar. In the last few months itself, there have been at least 10 disastrous incidents in the country where under construction projects have collapsed and failed. In Bihar alone, several under construction bridges collapsed, like this bridge being built in Muzaffarpur district over the Bagmati Lakni rivers in Bihar. Now such incidents are not only an embarrassment for the government, it also clearly points towards the lack of accountability and the poor project planning and management by the government authorities and the private sector which might be involved in these public-private partnerships. Now a country like India, which has ambitious plans for the future, cannot afford such projects to fail. You can't afford the collapse of bridges. For example, if you remember at the Delhi airport recently, slightly heavy rainfall caused an accident where the roof of the airport terminal collapsed, causing a major incident at the airport. So such repeated incidents which are happening with regard to our infrastructure projects is not just an embarrassment, but it highlights the concerns, the challenges facing our infrastructure sector. If we don't address the challenges, this could affect our growth. It could derail India's economic trajectory, and it might prevent India from achieving its ambitious goals and targets. As you all know, India seeks to become a developed country, a Viksit Bharat, by 2047. That is the goal laid down by Prime Minister Modi. India desires to become a $5 trillion economy very soon. So if we have to achieve these objectives, if we have to trigger economic growth and power the rise of India, and ensure that we provide for better socio-economic welfare, ensuring quality infrastructure and timely completion of these projects by ensuring the safety of these projects is going to be absolutely critical. So let's examine what are the problems facing the infrastructure sector. Why are so many projects failing? What could be the reason? There are many other challenges facing our ambitious infrastructure projects. So let's take a detailed look at this. See, with regard to the mega projects that India is taking up, not just the central government, but even at the state level and even local bodies, they're all involved in several key infrastructure projects which have a local impact. The main problem is quality control when it comes to the planning stage, adequate precaution has to be taken to ensure that the highest quality standards and design standards and safety measures are implemented. And when it comes to implementing such a mega project or any large project, you need the capabilities, the skills of project management. You need to bring in latest tools, latest technologies, and ensure that there is proactive monitoring of the projects and a feedback loop and accountability measures to ensure that we prevent such serious structural failures and ensure that we fast track the projects, complete them on time without delays, without cost overruns. Because delivering the projects on time is equally important. It's as important as ensuring the safety, the structural safety of these projects. Now, India has been doing quite well in the infrastructure sector over the last few years, especially over the last decade. The Modi government has stepped up the capital expenditure to create long-lasting capital assets. If you look at this year's union budget, more than 11 lakh crore rupees has been allocated, which is 3.4% of our GDP, which itself is a record allocation. So clearly the government at the central level has prioritized infrastructure development and adequate financial resources are being allocated. The Modi government has launched few flagship initiatives as well to drive infrastructure creation in the country. For example, the PM Gati Shakti initiative and the National Master Plan for Connectivity, the National Logistics Policy, Smart Cities Mission, and many others. At the state level, state governments have their own initiatives, and even local bodies, municipal bodies especially, they will be driving their own local initiatives as well. So ensuring harmony and synchronization of these initiatives from center to state to local level is very, very essential. Now first let's get a look at these important initiatives of the central government. Let's understand quickly what is Gati Shakti initiative, what's the National Master Plan for Connectivity, what is National Logistics Policy and the Smart Cities Mission. So let's start with the Gati Shakti initiative. PM Gati Shakti is essentially a monitoring platform which has been set up at the level of the Prime Minister. The PMO, the Prime Minister's office, plays a proactive role in monitoring the ongoing projects in the country, the mega projects which are undergoing, be it an airport project or a seaport construction or construction of industrial corridors, expressways, important railway links. These mega national level projects are directly monitored in real time at the level of the Prime Minister's office. The focus of PM Gati Shakti is to drive the ongoing initiatives, add the momentum needed. So this initiative plays a critical role in bringing coordination between different ministries. It helps in accountability through real-time monitoring at the highest level so that the projects can be driven and we can ensure timely completion and execution of these projects. So the focus is to achieve convergence between various initiatives like Bharatmala initiative, Sagarmala initiative. So India has really expanded its road network under Bharatmala and we are stepping up our port infrastructure up to match up to global standards under Sagarmala initiative. This aligns with our Sagar doctrine as well under our foreign policy. It allows India to dominate the Indo-Pacific region and promote our trade. Under the UDAN scheme, regional air connectivity was prioritized and today every nook and corner of the country is connected with civil aviation connectivity. Then the government is prioritizing economic zones, special economic zones, industrial clusters and expansion of the railway infrastructure as well, including railway freight or cargo traffic. The focus is not just on passenger transportation but also cargo, goods and freight transportation. So Gati Shakti achieves a convergence between all these initiatives and drives coordination between different stakeholders, between the private industry, various government ministries and state governments, and provides for real-time monitoring and accountability at the highest level. So this is where Gati Shakti can make a big impact. It also focuses on driving social infrastructure from universities to hospitals to strengthen education and medical facilities in the country. It has special attention for economic zones and industrial clusters to drive economic activities, to promote export-oriented industries So the focus of Gati Shakti is to make India into a global hub, a world-class hub of infrastructure, by not just driving the ongoing projects, but also by planning the upcoming initiatives. So essentially, it's a project management initiative to ensure that at the highest level, at the central level, there is coordinated planning, there is enough accountability on the ongoing projects, and to drive synergy between different projects. Now, if you look at the Gati Shakti National Master Plan for Connectivity, the focus of the Modi government is to achieve multimodal connectivity, to ensure that multiple modes of transit and transportation is interconnected, from air transportation to sea maritime based transportation, to inland navigation through rivers, and as well as road and rail connectivity, to achieve harmony between multiple modes of transit and transportation, along with focus on digital connectivity. Because in today's world, connectivity is not just about physical connectivity through roads and railway projects and air connectivity. It's also about driving digital connectivity. So the Gati Shakti National Master Plan on multimodal connectivity is focused on increasing our port capacity, the cargo handling capacity of our major and minor ports. It's focused on improving the infrastructure with regard to inland navigation on national waterways like Ganga, Brahmaputra, Barak and the others. So it focuses on multiple modes of transportation and also prioritizes digital connectivity to prepare India for futuristic technologies. Be it the rollout of 4G networks in all villages, the adoption of emerging communication technologies like 5G and 6G networks, and improving the last mile connectivity and thus driving economic activities and creating livelihood opportunities. These are the priorities of the National Master Plan on multimodal connectivity. Then coming to National Logistics Policy that was launched a couple of years ago. The focus of this policy is to improve India's logistics management. In any major economy, logistics will play a critical role. The back end of your supply chain plays a very, very important role. Be it transportation, storage facilities, warehousing facilities, cold storage facilities, and the overall handling of goods on the back end of the supply chain is absolutely critical. If you're strong in logistics, if there is efficiency in your logistics sector, then this is what will drive the faster movement of goods. It will speed up your economic growth. It will be like a multiplier effect on your economic activities. Unfortunately for India, we struggle in the logistics sector. If you look at our global performance as compared to global standards, India was way behind. If you look at our performance on the Logistics Performance Index, which is a very, very important index brought out by the World Bank, in 2014, India was placed at the 54th position. But thanks to these ambitious projects and initiatives, India's position has improved significantly and our rank has jumped to 38 out of 139 countries in the latest index that was published earlier this year. World Bank brings out the LPI, Logistics Performance Index, and our rank has improved significantly from 54 in 2014 to 38 in 2024. So in a decade, we have jumped several places. But this is not enough. The goal of National Logistics Policy is to place India in the top 25 countries. With regard to Logistics Performance Index, the goal is to improve India's ranking and bring India within the top 25 countries by the end of the decade. This is a very ambitious target set by the government. And also the cost of logistics is quite higher. So reducing the cost, reducing the average cost of logistics, improving supply chain efficiency, making supply chains resilient and diversified. This is the focus and priority of the National Logistics Policy. Now, if you look at the Smart City Mission, this has been a flagship program of the Modi government and it's focused on improving urban infrastructure in select cities, especially the top 100 cities which are chosen under the program. So it's focused on streamlining urbanization, solving urban problems from traffic management to better roads, to better waste management, with focus on clean energy and greener initiatives. So all such urban focused initiatives have been undertaken under the Smart Cities Mission and most projects have already been completed under the Smart Cities mission, and you can already see the transformative impact in several cities in India. But despite all the progress that India has made, we still face many challenges, and there's a lot of criticism as well against our infrastructure projects. One major concern is the massive delays in our projects, which also leads to cost overruns. Because see, every week delay, every month delay in a project, right, with regard to its completion, will shoot up the input cost. Because in a economy where inflation is in the range of 4 to 6%, where demand remains persistently high for essential raw materials, the cost of construction will keep on adding up if you delay the project by even a day, by even a week or a month or a year. So there are constant time delays in our mega infrastructure projects, which is directly leading to significant cost overruns. The estimated project cost is constantly revised upwards, which places strain on our financial resources. The budget constraints might further delay the projects as well, leading to several stagnating projects which are never completed. I am sure many of you would have come across these projects in your cities and where you are residing in those areas, where projects are going on from years and years without any hope of completion, right? So either technical difficulties might have been encountered, either poor planning, poor project management, right, by the concerned institutions, or the cost has shot up significantly, which makes the project cost prohibitive, or it could be a combination of all these factors. So to address time delays and cost overruns, you need efficient project management. Those who are from the corporate sector would better understand the significance of project management, right? So this managerial practice will help bring the best practices right from the planning stage. You can make the project more efficient, ensure that the deadlines are adhered to, and ensure accountability of the stakeholders. So that is why it's very important to scale the capabilities of your local governments, your urban local bodies, and ensure that right from the planning stage priority is given for safety, structural safety to prevent failures, timely completion of projects, preventing cost overruns, and ensuring that the project is executed as planned by keeping in mind the long-term vision. You can't take up short-sighted projects which end up creating more problems, more bottlenecks. You need to resolve the existing problems, ease the burden in transportation, connectivity and logistics, and that requires long-term planning, that requires far-sighted vision. So we need to improve the capabilities of our government agencies, ministries, and especially urban local bodies and local governments. This is very crucial because see, many times projects are delayed on the account of getting the required clearances. For any big project, you need environmental clearance, sometimes social audit would be necessary, right? You need approvals from various stakeholders, right? From the fire department to the local bodies, etc. So getting these clearances often affects the ease of doing business. The delays and sometimes even corruption and red tapeism present in the bureaucracy could lead to substantial delays in just getting the clearances for a project that could increase the cost and lead to substantial delays. So to address all these problems, what you need is efficient project management, and the required skills and capacities have to be built amongst all the stakeholders. See, today government has prioritized public-private partnership. In such PPP projects, it's important to hold the private player accountable for the deadlines and the targets that have been laid out. So what we need to do is we need to overhaul our traditional approach. Our traditional approach towards infrastructure creation is very laid back, complacent, lackadaisical. We need to become more proactive, right? There should be real-time monitoring. We should integrate modern planning tools and management tools. We should learn from the private industry, the corporate sector, from global best standards, right? Look at what other countries are doing. If you look at China or even West Asian countries, other developed industrialized economies, and in some cases even small countries have done much better than India when it comes to infrastructure creation. So we need to look at their models, what they have done differently, learn from them, try to implement that by customizing those models to suit the Indian context. So we need to bring in modern scientific tools and corporate management tools. Provide for real-time data capturing and monitoring. The status of the project should be monitored in real time by using project management tools. Today we have Management Information System, MIS tools available to create a dashboard based tracking system. We can use GIS to geotag the projects and use satellite data to provide for better monitoring, to real-time monitoring of ongoing projects. That is what Gati Shakti initiative is hoping to do. Now, if you look at other countries, for example, in United Kingdom, one reason why these countries are able to drive their projects on time, ensure the safety of the project and timely completion is because they have dedicated institutions or authorities or agencies at the national level which are monitoring the projects and driving the initiatives through project management methods. In UK, you have the Infrastructure and Projects Authority, a national authority responsible for driving the ongoing projects and ensuring the timely completion of these projects. Even China, Saudi Arabia, they also have similar national level authorities or agencies that are driving the initiatives. Right from planning stage, they ensure that the long-term vision is kept in mind. They ensure that there is synchronization and harmony with other ongoing projects, and they also bring in modern tools of management. They include all the safety measures. They ensure that projects are completed on time without sufficient cost overruns. So there are models available in UK, in China, in Saudi Arabia. Even if you go to small countries like Bahrain, Qatar, they have done much better with regard to infrastructure compared to India. So I think this is where we should implement these strategies under the National Master Plan for Connectivity. The Gati Shakti initiative has a similar vision, but what we need is a national level authority, a national level agency that can achieve planning and coordination at the national level to drive these projects for timely completion and safety during construction. So under Gati Shakti, GIS based real-time monitoring is already provided. There is a API which has been created as well, an application programming interface to track the real-time progress at the level of the Prime Minister's office. The PMO can get in touch with all the departments and stakeholders, all ministries and state governments and the project proponents, and drive them and push them by ensuring responsibility and accountability. So India needs to scale such initiatives, and what we need is a national agency or a national authority to provide a holistic program management approach. For example, in some projects, this approach has given results for us. If you look at the industrial corridor in Aurangabad, Maharashtra, the PM approach was adopted. A holistic comprehensive project management approach was adopted with real-time tracking of the manpower, the money being spent, the status and progress of the project, right? The data was being constantly monitored, regulated. And this led to timely completion of an industrial corridor connecting Shendra with Bitkin in Aurangabad. So this needs to be scaled up at the national level. We need an agency, we need an authority that can bring in the professional expertise, bring in the global best standards, and ensure that it promotes the concept of project management. Maybe all concerned stakeholders could be trained. The concerned ministries and government departments and even your urban local bodies, they could be made aware, they could be imparted these skills to understand the role of project management at the planning stage. Why all these concerns have to be addressed at the planning stage itself, holistically, before you even think of starting a project. How to speed up the clearances, how to ensure safety during construction, how to maintain the structural integrity of the project, ensure it's a long-lasting project. How will you ensure harmony synchronization with other projects which are there? How do you clear the existing bottlenecks, reduce the cost of transportation, right? So this requires extensive planning right from the beginning, and that is why the article is calling for a national agency by following UK, China, Saudi Arabia and others, so that we can prevent these delays and unnecessary project failures, and thus we can drive our infrastructure projects to achieve our goal of becoming a developed nation by 2047. Now please take up a question based on this. India's ambitious pursuit of infrastructure projects has been hit by time delays, cost overruns and under construction project failures. How can India address these challenges? So based on what we have discussed, try to build a good answer for this. Use the key pointers, structure it very well. You can start out your answer by discussing India's ambitious plans to become a $5 trillion economy and a developed country by 2047. You can point out the role of infrastructure in achieving these targets. Or maybe you can discuss the recent failures which have occurred, which causes embarrassment for India and slows down our pursuit of these critical projects, right? Then in the body, discuss the problems, the challenges, the hurdles, and provide a solution. Discuss how we can address these problems through better planning and project management techniques, and why we need a national agency or a national authority to drive these projects. You can also give examples of the ongoing initiatives and the progress that has been made through these initiatives. Now let's move on to the next article that focuses on India's relations with Australia. The Hindu carries an interview with the CEO of Australia India Institute, which is a think tank that focuses on driving India-Australia relations. So the CEO of Australia India Institute is talking about the broad-based nature of India-Australia relationship. So let's get a quick overview with regard to this important strategic partnership. See, India-Australia have become very close partners, strategic partners over the last couple of decades. During the Cold War, we were on the opposite sides of the geopolitical spectrum. While India was initially non-aligned, committed to the non-aligned movement, and later we were forced to align with the Soviet Union, Australia, on the other hand, was always with the Western Bloc, was always seen as an American ally. So this Cold War divide had kept India-Australia largely away from each other. But however, thanks to the Indian community, thanks to Indian students and workers, from 1980s, 1990s itself, India-Australia were getting closer with regard to people relations. Cultural relations were getting automatically built because of the migration of Indian students and workers in large numbers to Australia, as it was a preferred destination. So the connection offered by the Indian community is a prime driver of this relationship today. Today, I'm sure all of you know that lakhs of students, workers, they aspire to go to countries like Australia to study, to settle down, to work. And for skilled and qualified Indians, it's quite easy to get a PR as well, permanent residency status, which allows you to have a better standard of life in Australia, contribute to Australian economy, and thus contribute to the Indian economy as well. Don't think this is a brain drain. It's not. Because these Indian workers will send remittances back home to their families, right? So this boosts our forex reserves. It will help in bridging our current account deficit. More importantly, the Indian community members, they are contributing to Australian society and economy. Today, they are key constituents of the Australian society, and they are having a positive impact, right? So they act as cultural ambassadors of India, promoting our soft power and cultural influence, creating an influence for India. But as India and United States got closer post 2001, as the geopolitical world order was getting realigned after 2001, it was only natural for India-Australia to get closer and work together. The two governments have built a strategic partnership, and recently it has been elevated to a comprehensive strategic partnership. So today we enjoy very close political diplomatic relations and extremely close economic, strategic and defense relations as well. If you look at the economic ties, the trade volume has grown significantly, and there are a lot of exports from India to Australia. There are a lot of imports coming from Australia to India. It's a significant trade relationship, and also Australia is a leader in technology, research and development, innovation. This is something that interests India, and also Australia can drive investments into India, and India is also driving investments into Australia. Is that clear? So no wonder we have a strong economic partnership and a very close strategic defense and security partnership. Because today the global focus is on the Indo-Pacific. All the major economic geopolitical developments are happening in the Indo-Pacific, and India, Australia sit at the two extreme ends of the Indo-Pacific. If you look at the map, you will clearly notice that India, Australia are located at two corners of the Indo-Pacific. Australia is not just a Pacific power, but an Indian Ocean power as well. And India is a leading power in the Indian Ocean region, and it has significant influence across the Indo-Pacific. Since we have common interests, common concerns, it naturally drives us together to stay together. Now, for example, let me tell you how Australia is critical for our energy security. See, Australia has massive coal reserves and it is already a supplier of coal. Indian companies like Adani have invested in massive coal projects at the Carmichael Coal Reserve, and it has one of the world's largest coal reserves, and it's a reliable supplier of coal which is powering our thermal power plants. Australia has the world's largest known uranium reserve. Amongst all the countries, Australia stands right at the top when it comes to uranium reserves. It's also one of the top producers of uranium as well. So no wonder we signed a civil nuclear deal in 2014 so that Australia can supply uranium to India to power our 3-stage nuclear program. Australia is also home to critical strategic minerals, which I'm going to discuss in a short while. We have an initiative between the two countries to focus on joint exploration of critical strategic minerals. So that is how Australia plays a key role in guaranteeing energy security to India. There are Indian companies investing in Australia. Australian companies are bringing investments to the country. There is collaboration between our startups, our tech industry. There is a joint research, development and innovation taking place. So this is almost like a perfect relationship, right? We have very close defense military relations. We even have joint military exercises. We have a joint naval exercise called AUS Index. Indian Navy and even Indian Air Force has been frequently deployed into the far corners of the Indian Ocean region and even the Pacific. Australia conducts a few multilateral exercises and India has frequently participated. Both Indian Navy and Indian Air Force have deployed their assets in such a faraway location. And during this transit, we have used Australian islands, strategic islands where military bases are located, like the Cook or the Coco Island. I'm not referring to the Cocos Island of Myanmar. I'm referring to Coco Island, located below Indonesia, closer to Australia, and Christmas Island. These are strategic islands of Australia in the Indian Ocean where military facilities are located. We have signed a logistics exchange agreement between our armed forces. Indian and Australian armed forces can use each other's military facilities for logistical support, for refueling and resupplies. This enhances our operational range. So when Indian Navy, Indian Air Force were deployed in Australia for these multilateral and bilateral military exercises, our ships and aircraft, they use the facilities at Christmas Island and Coco Islands. This promotes our security presence and influence, which allows India, Australia to counter the growing presence of China, especially the PLA Navy has been expanding its naval presence across the Indo-Pacific, from Horn of Africa to South China Sea. In South China Sea, China's aggression has indeed posed a threat to Australia and as well as to India. So to counter China and to stabilize the region, India, Australia are ideal partners. We are also part of a multilateral naval exercise called Malabar. India has invited Japan, Australia as permanent members along with United States into the Malabar exercise. When we started Malabar in the 1990s, it was just a bilateral naval exercise between India and US. In 2007, Manmohan Singh government made an attempt to expand Malabar by bringing Japan, Australia and even Singapore. But China objected to it, raised concern and brought pressure on India. Following this, we had scaled down Malabar, brought it back to a bilateral exercise with only United States. We had stopped inviting Japan and Australia and even Singapore. But as China got aggressive against India, carried out more incursions and threatened India, India has embraced these countries, which are also part of an informal grouping called the Quad, or the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue. So in recent years, we have invited Japan back, and Australia was also brought back in 2020. So these 4 countries are now permanent participants in the Malabar naval exercise. Through the Quad grouping, they are trying to enforce a rules-based order in the Indo-Pacific to uphold international law, to ensure UN Convention on Law of the Sea is strictly followed and freedom of navigation, freedom of overflight is protected, as China has threatened these basic rights in South China Sea. Because of all the disputes it has picked with multiple Southeast Asian countries, Chinese Navy especially and even its Coast Guard and Air Force have been very aggressive. They have been preventing the movement of ships and aircraft, which is a violation of international law. It goes against the rules-based order and UN clause provisions. So collectively, India, Australia can work together and ensure that their core security concerns are protected. Recently, we have entered into a limited trade agreement with Australia. A couple of years ago in 2022, we signed the ECTA, Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement, was signed between the two countries, and they have given duty-free access to each other for most of their exports. For a select list of exports, almost duty-free access is being given, and the goal is to double the trade volume, create jobs, especially in labor-intensive sectors. India's labor-intensive industries like gems, jewelry, leather, furniture industry, pharma industry, and even medical devices, textiles, such industries which can create jobs, they will benefit by increased exports to Australia, right? We can create more jobs. The aim is to create up to 1 million jobs just through this trade agreement. The agreement has worked very well in the last couple of years. It has significantly increased the trade volume. We are getting access to high quality Australian products. India's exports to Australia also has gone up significantly. The visa regime has been simplified and liberalized for skilled and qualified Indians. And we are also negotiating a full-fledged FTA. We are negotiating a comprehensive economic cooperation or partnership agreement, and we hope to have a full-fledged FTA in the coming future. And if you look at other critical areas, India, Australia have launched a critical mineral investment partnership. As I told you, Australia is blessed with many critical strategic minerals, from lithium to copper, nickel, cobalt, and even rare earth minerals. Australia is blessed with plenty of reserves, and it can be a reliable supplier that can help reduce India's dependency on China-dominated supply chains. So we have launched a critical mineral investment partnership where India's Kabil, Khanij Bidesh India Limited, will collaborate with Australian companies and institutions to jointly explore, invest, and harness the resources which can drive the energy transition plans of both the countries to adopt cleaner forms of energy. And we have also joined a supply chain initiative with Japan. India, Japan, Australia, they have launched a trilateral initiative to improve supply chains and logistics. It's called Supply Chain Resilience Initiative. It was launched by these three countries following the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic disrupted the global supply chains and made India and others realize the kind of dominance that China had on global supply chains. As the Chinese economy went into a lockdown and manufacturing and production shut down in China, this completely disrupted global supply chains, affecting economies around the world, from India to US to Australia to Japan. So that is when we decided to diversify the supply chains to reduce dependency on China-dominated supply chains. Not only to protect against such external shocks, but also to ensure that China doesn't misuse this economic advantage for a geopolitical advantage. So these three countries have launched a trilateral supply chain resilience initiative. So this is the kind of relations we have with this country. We even have a 2+2 ministerial dialogue. Our foreign and defense ministers, they regularly meet with each other in a simultaneous interaction to discuss key foreign policy and security issues. We are members of important regional groups like IORA, Indian Ocean Rim Association. India, Australia are key members who drive initiatives at Indian Ocean Rim Association that brings most of the important rim states or littoral states of Indian Ocean together. There's another group in Western Indian Ocean called Indian Ocean Commission. India is an observer to the group. It contains small island countries as members in the Western Indian Ocean: Madagascar, Seychelles, Mauritius, Comoros, and French Reunion. So these 5 Western Indian Ocean countries, island countries near East Africa, they are members of this important grouping. India is an observer with Japan, China, and others. Now Australia also is showing interest to join Indian Ocean Commission as an observer. So such regional groups and platforms create an opportunity for India, Australia to work together. So essentially there is great potential for this relationship, and recently we have held the India-Australia Maritime Dialogue. We are focused on maritime security. The 6th edition of the Maritime Security Dialogue was held, which is obviously a focus in the Indo-Pacific. We also held the Kolkata Dialogue to focus on island states in the Indo-Pacific and the problems and challenges that they are facing. there are many small island states in Indo-Pacific region. From you have your Pacific Oceania region, where countries like Fiji, Solomon Islands, Samoa, Palau are present. And in Indian Ocean, we have many small countries from Maldives to Seychelles to others. So these small island states, they face a lot of challenges, from global warming to disasters to security threats to economic challenges. So India, Australia are working together in the recently held Kolkata dialogue, and we are trying to help out the island states together. India has a focus on Indian Ocean island countries, and we are prioritizing even the Pacific Ocean island states near Australia. So this is again a common vision. So these are the common areas where we can work together, and it's one of the most important strategic partnerships. So today our engagement with Australia is seen as part of our Indo-Pacific vision. It's seen as an extension of our Act East policy. Now let's quickly look at the prelim section and wrap up the session today by going through these small articles. On page 8, we have an article referring to NHRC, National Human Rights Commission. So let's quickly understand what is NHRC, why is it in the news, and what is the concern being expressed by this article. National Human Rights Commission is a statutory body set up through Protection of Human Rights Act 1993. So it is set up through a parliamentary law which makes it a statutory body, and it's an independent autonomous organization. Is that clear? So its primary role is obviously to protect and promote human rights. See, India is a signatory to Paris Principles of 1991. We have also adopted the Universal Declaration on Human Rights. We are also committed to the principles of UN Charter. They all deal with human rights, and India, being a constitutional democracy, is committed to protect and uphold human rights. So accordingly, a national legislation was adopted as mandated by Paris Principles, the Protection of Human Rights Act, and NHRC was set up as an independent statutory body. So today, this body plays a very important role in promoting human rights in the country. So let's understand its composition. This body has a chairperson and 5 full-time members and 7 deemed members. The chairperson has to be either a retired Chief Justice of India or a judge of the Supreme Court, a retired judge of the Supreme Court. 5 members, they come from judiciary. Some of them would be retired judges from Supreme Court or Chief Justice of a High Court, and few members from the civil society, those who have expertise in legal matters related to human rights, right? They are included. And also there is a obligation to ensure equitable representation for women and minorities. Amongst the members, there should be representation for lower castes, SCs, STs and OBCs, religious minorities, and as well as there has to be a women member, right? So such diversity is provided, and there are few deemed members, the chairpersons of important constitutional statutory bodies like National Commission for Backward Classes, Minorities, SC, ST, National Commission, right? Such constitutional and statutory bodies and their chairpersons are also ex officio deemed members. Now, who appoints them? They are appointed by the President of India. Is that clear? But the names are recommended by a panel, by a committee, by an appointments committee, which is headed by the Prime Minister. And to bring fairness and transparency, there is representation for Speaker of Lok Sabha, the Minister of Home Affairs, the Union Home Minister, and Leader of Opposition, both in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, along with the Deputy Chairman in Rajya Sabha. The members are appointed for 3-year term or till they reach the age of 70, and they can even be removed according to the provisions given under the Act. Is that clear? Now, let me tell you what is the role, the function of NHRC and why is it in news. See, NHRC has the powers of a civil court. It can issue summons, it can pass orders, it has the same powers as that of a civil court, and it can take suo motu cognizance of human right violations being reported in the country. For example, if you look at the horrific rape incident of a doctor in Kolkata at the RG Kar Medical College, NHRC took suo motu notice and started its own parallel investigation, right? So it can take notice on its own based on media reports, and it can also receive complaints regarding human right violations. It can carry out its own inquiry. A sort of investigation can be conducted, come out with reports and suggestions to the government, to the parliament, to improve human rights, to protect human rights. So it is quite a powerful body in that regard. And it's supposed to be truly independent. It has to be independent from the government, because in many cases, the one violating your human rights, your basic fundamental rights, could be the government itself. Imagine in a conflict zone, security forces are abusing their power and authority, resulting in fake encounters or torture or custodial killings. So to tackle such aggravated cases of human rights violations, it is important for this body to be independent. Is that clear? So there is a global accreditation process under the United Nations to certify whether these national human rights commissions are truly independent. There is a UN body called the Global Alliance of National Human Rights Institutions, GANHRI. So for national human rights commissions around the world, like India's NHRC, it is mandatory for them to get accreditation by this global body under the UN. So only if this National Human Rights Commission is truly independent and transparent in its functioning, and only if the commission is truly representative of all sections of the society, only then the accreditation is given by GANHRI. Now the concern for us is that NHRC has lost its accreditation for multiple years. There is a big controversy about the functioning of NHRC and its appointments and the vacancies that are left behind. See, NHRC hasn't provided the right representation, be it for women members and especially for minority members. Representation has often been missing within the composition of the commission. Then NHRC has not been seen as fully independent from the government. In many cases, these appointments have become political appointments. It's been seen that NHRC appears to favor the executive, leading to allegations of compromise of independence by this important statutory body. And the biggest concern right now is that there are multiple critical vacancies which have not been filled by the government for several months. See, I told you there should be one chairperson, 5 full-time members and 7 deemed members. Right now, believe it or not, there is only one member sitting running the NHRC, one women member who's part of the commission, right? Deemed members will obviously be there because these are ex officio positions. By virtue of being a chairperson of a National Commission on Scheduled Castes, the chairperson will automatically become a deemed member. So this doesn't come into picture. If you look at the 5 members and the chairperson's position is vacant from June. It's been 3 months plus, and the government hasn't found the time to fill the chairperson's position, which is a critical position. So one of the full-time members, who's the only member remaining, has currently taken up the position of acting chairperson. So 4 member positions are vacant, and the chairperson's position is vacant for several months, and the government has not even bothered to fill up these positions. This critical body is being run just by one full-time member. So this further weakens the image of NHRC, raises questions about its independence and transparency, and thus it is unlikely to get accreditation from the Global Alliance of NHRIs. Understood? Let's look at another important development. Union Home Minister Amit Shah has informed that the capital of Andaman Nicobar, Port Blair, has been renamed as Sri Vijaya Puram. This is part of the Modi government's effort to get rid of the colonial legacy, the colonial hangover. Port Blair was essentially a colonial name, anglicized name that was given. Now, Andaman Nicobar is of great strategic significance for India because of its location. It's like a floating aircraft carrier of India. And historically as well, Andaman Nicobar has been deeply linked with Indian mainland. Be it the Cholas, the mighty Chola Empire, which was predominantly a naval power, which extended influence across the Indian Ocean, Bay of Bengal, all the way till Indonesia, Southeast Asia and China. So for the Cholas, Port Blair was a staging ground, a major naval base for the Chola Navy. Then during the freedom struggle, the cellular jail, which housed most of India's freedom fighters, right? It's a close link with our freedom struggle. Subhash Chandra Bose turned Andaman Nicobar into a base for Indian National Army and even raised the Indian flag. So given the historical, cultural, economic and strategic significance, it's important to Indianize these regions, even their names, and the government has essentially done away with the colonial hangover and it is naming it as Sri Vijaya Puram, which is the historical reference to the Chola naval base that existed here in Andaman Nicobar. Next, on the same page, we have an article related to a light battle tank called Zorawar, which is being developed by DRDO. DRDO in collaboration with Larsen and Toubro. So it's a public-private collaboration in the defense sector, and together they are producing a key artillery equipment for the Indian Army. They are designing and developing indigenously a light battle tank called Zorawar. It is designed to be deployed in high altitude areas like the Himalayan ranges facing Pakistan and China. It comes with a significant firepower, and the trials are taking place, and hopefully by next year it will be inducted into the Indian Army. Coming to the last article, on page 12, we have this article referring to an event hosted by China called the Xiangshan Forum. The Xiangshan Forum is the premier diplomatic event organized and hosted by China. It is basically China's version of Shangri-La Dialogue, which is hosted by Singapore. India also hosts a similar event called Raisina Dialogue in Delhi. So these conclaves or symposiums or conferences, whatever you call it, it brings together the top government leaders from around the world, from prime ministers to presidents to foreign and defense ministers. It brings together top diplomats, intelligence officers, military officials from around the world, and as well as experts, journalists, academia. So this is a platform to discuss key geopolitical issues, foreign policy and security issues. So the most premier event in this domain is the Shangri-La Dialogue hosted in the legendary Shangri-La Hotel in Singapore. In Europe, there is a similar event called the Munich Conference, hosted in Germany, in the city of Munich. India has a similar event called Raisina Dialogue, which is hosted by Observer Research Foundation, ORF, which is a private think tank, in collaboration with Ministry of External Affairs. This is India's premier diplomatic conclave. And China also hosts a similar event called the Xiangshan Forum. So the participants included close Chinese allies like Pakistan, Russia, Myanmar as well, and other important powers like Singapore, Iran, Germany, and many others. So delegates from around the world, including government leaders, officials, and even non-state representatives, they took part in this event and key issues were discussed. So just remember the Xiangshan Forum, which is the equivalent of Shangri-La Dialogue, Raisina Dialogue, and Munich Conference. So on this note, I conclude my discussion for today. I hope you guys have liked the session, understood all the key topics, and if you benefited from the session, do let me know in the comments, and do support us through your likes, because that is what we look for, right? The more you support us, the more you encourage us, it will motivate us to do better, to do more for you. So let's see how many likes we can get on this video, and let's catch up tomorrow again. Till then, take care. Have a good day.